podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.
Welcome to the 1905 podcast. Each week, Joe and I bring you our unfiltered takes on the highs, the lows, and everything in between, following the Blues from Gate 13 of the Matthew Harding stand. Let's hit the notes.
Arsenal 2, Chelsea 1, and yet another game where Chelsea have failed to win. I'm pretty hot. I'm running a bit hot right now. I'm going to try and put a lid on it a bit, because what I don't want to do is come across as ranty. It may get there, so bear with me. Where should we start? Let's start in the first half. Let's start with the team selection. I'm not going to go through the team. You all know who played. And I think that's probably our strongest 11 that we currently have without injuries. So obviously Correa would come back into the side, etc. But for what we had available, I think I was pleased. I was really pleased to see the lineup. I thought that was brilliant. I was so pleased to see Mamadou Sarr start. I was so pleased to see Hato start. I called for that in my preview note, and do you know what? I was really happy with Sarr. I thought he was great. I thought Hato had a slightly difficult start against Saka, but I think he grew into the game, and I actually think he was pretty damn good. And I think him and Sarr can come away from that game feeling, let's just say, not pleased because Chelsea ultimately lost the game, but I think they can be very happy with their individual performances. And I think Sarr starts now for me every week without question, alongside Trev. That's my two. Chris and I have been asking for a solid back two people you can trust. Fofana, you cannot trust. He is generally quite injury prone and has moments in games that make you want to cut your spleen open. Whereas Tosin and Badiashile, basically, you want daggers to the eyes, one straight through the heart when they play. So it's not a high bar that Sarr's got to get through. And quite frankly, Chalobah and Sarr were pretty classy today. I think that they've marshalled the defence very, very well. I think they defended Gyökeres really, really well, and they didn't get themselves exasperated. They didn't get panicked. They were good on the ball. I think Sarr's going to be a threat from set pieces going forward. He's a big lump, and I like him. He's a very young man. It's his second or third game for the club or something like that. He can be very, very pleased, and also Trev as well. Reece James equally very, very good. Didn't have the greatest first half, Reece, I'll be honest. He was a little bit slow to react to things and got caught out for the goal massively from Gabriel, who won the header against him, and obviously Saliba sort of knocked it in, but it came off for Sarr, and there's probably an own goal really, but I think they're going to give it to the Arsenal centre-back. I think that's what I've been saying about Reece James not playing centre-back, is that he can't, against these big lumps, he just hasn't got the leap, he hasn't got the height. It's not his fault, but that's why he's not really going to be someone that I would want to see play at centre-half regularly. And his delivery from crosses and wide areas, corners, etc., is just first class. And yeah, I think Reece was good. After we scored that goal, which was, a bit ugly, I think there was definitely a penalty shout on Declan Rice there. Way up in the air, and obviously catches him on the elbow. It's I say it's a definite penalty. In the modern game, it's a definite penalty. 20 years ago, it's never a pen. But that is a penalty all day long with VAR. Obviously, we didn't get it, but we did score from the resulting corner, and Chelsea can be very, very pleased with the way they went in. I thought Chelsea were pretty atrocious in the first half. I'll be honest. Not defensively as such, but I just thought we didn't kick the ball very well. It kept coming back. I thought Cole Palmer was their best player. All day, if I'm honest with you. And people want to question that. They might say that's been a bit harsh. Palmer passed the ball to a red shirt numerous times. He lost the ball in possession numerous times. He didn't go past anybody. He didn't create any kind of magic. There was a point in the first half where he had a 3 or 4 yard pass to a wide player right by the 18-yard box of Arsenal, and he passed it straight out of play. And I just thought to myself, it's going to be a long day. And we were 1-0 down at that point. So yeah, disappointing first half. I must go back and just talk about Rob Sanchez. Rob Sanchez in the first half was a disgrace. And this is why I've been saying for a long, long time, when he has the occasional good game, people forget how shit he can be. And this is a big game for Chelsea today. And we had a goalkeeper that gave possession of the ball umpteen times. It was a lot. I can't count them. I should have started counting them, to be fair. But it was an exhausting amount of misplaced passes, hoofs down the field that were going along the floor, scuffs, not coming for crosses. Just shambolic. Absolutely shambolic. And if there's Chelsea fans out there that think that he's our goalkeeper going forward for the next 2 or 3 years, Jesus Christ. Lord have mercy, as they say. He's not good enough. He's just not good enough. In the second half, I felt as though Chelsea were a bit edgy. First few minutes, never quite got going again. And I thought, are we going to get into this game at all? I know it was 1-1, but we didn't really seem to know what we were doing. It felt very bitty. Arsenal had a few set pieces. We didn't deal with them very well, but generally speaking, okay, the game stays as it is, and you go, okay, can we grow into it? And we did. And I thought Chelsea's best spell of play came between like maybe 55 and maybe 70 minutes. We didn't create tons of chances, but we looked very dangerous from set pieces. We didn't really create many chances from open play, but nor did Arsenal. But we were a threat, and we were having a lot of spells where you thought to yourself, we're actually playing for neat and tidy football here. We got João Pedro into the game, and he was fantastic again. João Pedro is easily our best player, I think, today. Again, such a good play. He's turning into a brilliant number 9 for Chelsea currently. And, I have to say, whatever Liam Rosenior has done to him has definitely worked. Chelsea's press kept Arsenal going backwards, not forwards. We had a couple of decisions where Arsenal had claimed the ball from Chelsea corner, and they were going to run out with it a couple of times, and the referee brought it back twice, which was quite handy for us. Palmer giving away a cynical foul on the edge of the box to get a yellow card, and I forget the other one, but again, it was another foul from a Chelsea player just to stop the Arsenal counter-attack, and it worked. However, then comes the galling blow with Chelsea on top and seemingly in control of that second half, and there's no doubt in my mind that if we did not concede that second goal from yet another corner, we may have well won that game today. And this is where my rage boiled over. When I saw that Pedro Neto got that yellow card for dissent after the second goal, and then I saw him track back, and I knew what he was going to do, and basically just flail 2 legs in the air. It wasn't like a dangerous foul, but a really reckless breaking up the counter-attack, sliding tackle, lunge. I absolutely lost it. And I mean lost it. And I'm not even sure the wife's speaking to me, to be fair, at the moment. I completely and utterly just saw red. I saw red myself. And 9 red cards, I believe. It is absolutely pathetic. This is where I hate this team. This is where I absolutely fucking hate this team, because we then go on the back foot yet again against not just any team now, the team at the top of the league, and generally speaking, just home, don't concede many goals, don't concede many chances, and you go down to another deficit in terms of your players. It's just embarrassing. I know from our own WhatsApp group we have, a local WhatsApp group, that everybody was in the same frame of mind, the same thinking as me. And quite frankly, the only way Liam Rosenior can get on top of this, if I was him, I would kick the fucking door down. I'd wait 2 minutes, let them all get into the changing room, then I would come in. There'd be no well playeds, no niceties, no nothing. Straight in, Neto, what the fuck are you doing? You know your game ban you're going to get now, or your 2-game ban, or whatever it's going to be. You ain't playing for 4 weeks. I don't care. I don't care if I even need you. You're not playing. I literally would not stand for it anymore. The only way these players are going to learn, okay, it's like a toddler trying to cross the road. You know, they're 3 and 4 and they toddle across the road and they don't look where the cars are coming. You go, because you have to scare them into thinking that they might get run over. Well, this is what this manager needs to do, because they're not learning. They haven't learned since the beginning of last season under Enzo Maresca. This is now an infestation. This is a problem, a huge problem for Chelsea. I thought to myself a while ago, this can't keep happening. We're not going to get another red card for a while now. It's just going to be, the law of averages says that it won't keep happening. But Chelsea players are so thick that I cannot see anything other than more and more red cards coming. If he allows this to happen, he needs to call Pedro Neto out in his post-match interview. Don't give all the niceties. He tried to be sort of nice to Fofana. He did call it out a little bit after the Burnley game, but now's the time. Now's the time. Pedro Neto might be the fall guy for this, but someone's got to be. Someone has to be the fall guy, because this is beyond a fucking joke. I am so unhappy with that red card. And quite frankly, one or two of those Chelsea players need to go in their dressing room and rough him up a bit, because it's just unacceptable. It's unacceptable behaviour. I could talk for 4 hours on that red card. My God. Okay. So we're 2-1 down. Rob Sanchez flails at another cross. Doesn't come for it. Stands on his goal line, then protests. He has the cheek to protest and pretends that he got fouled. Do these players not realise there are cameras everywhere? There are cameras on every goal line clearance. Every shot that gets had. Every handball, free kick. There are cameras everywhere. I forget where it is now. The Arsenal midfield player striker literally barely touches him. The ball is under his nose. It's 3 yards from his goal line, and he cannot come and claim it or punch it. He's 6'7" or 6'6". With his arm reach, he's about 7'4", and he's getting out jumped by Urian Timber. It is beggars belief, and all that hard work that Chelsea had put into that second half. As I said earlier on, they were comfortable in that second half. They actually looked like the team that were going to go and win the game. I thought, you know what, we're going to do this. We didn't play that well in the first half. We got a goal right at the end of right at the last kick of the first half, pretty much. I thought, we're going to go and do this. We are. And we go and do that. We get a goalkeeper who can't seem to move from his goal line when the ball's under his nose, and a stupid twat of a winger that gets 2 yellow cards in the space of about 2 minutes. Other than that, I think that Chelsea will probably be the better team, and I defy any Arsenal fan today. He's won the game, fair and square. You know, can't do anything about the idiots that we've got playing for us. But I say to you, we were probably the better side, and I reckon they would have been sitting in the stands tonight, pretty nervous about Chelsea and how they were playing, and considering Cole Palmer was terrible. I thought Caicedo was probably back to his best today. I thought he had a very good game. Didn't think Sanchez did, but he looked a little bit lost. Enzo, hit and miss, some good, some bad, battled pretty well. He had a decent shot at the start of the second half, which Raya turned around the post. He was all right, Enzo. I didn't mind his performance today. Again, got another stupid yellow card for smashing the ball into the turf. So yes, another yellow card for him, which is brilliant. I've mentioned the back four at the start of the voice note, so I won't go over them again. And then it comes down to, like I say, Cole Palmer. Yeah, pretty non-existent. João Pedro, excellent game. I thought Liam Delap probably had one of his best spells for the club, which is not staying much, let's be fair. Caused a bit of panic in the Arsenal defence. His sort of game, really, two ugly centre-halves having a fight and a scrap, sort of game that he enjoys. And he did put some pressure on, and obviously when Chelsea get that disallowed equalising goal right at the death, and he scored it, I thought maybe you've upgraded yourself to some kind of Dauphinois potato, but sadly João Pedro was at least a yard or two offside, although I've got nothing but good things to say about him because he looks a class above everybody in this Chelsea team at the moment, João Pedro. So these things happen. Graham made 2 incredible saves, by the way. The first one, brilliant save. He runs back and manages to punch it off the goal line. Oh, Rob Sanchez, what you could learn. This guy's only about 4 foot. He plays like he's 10 foot. Just goes to show you it's not all about height, is it? There is so much more I want to say on this game, but I will leave it there tonight and let Chris come in and give his thoughts. I know he's massively wants to talk about VAR and big Rob Sanchez. So, Chris, it's over to you.
Very good summary, I would say there, Joe. You were hot, but you stayed cool. I think is a fair reflection on that one. Oh, this might surprise people who listen to the pod, but believe it or not, when I watch games on TV, when I'm not at the bridge, I do tend to have a little pad out and write some notes about what I'm seeing, just to help me give some sort of coherence to these voice notes. And for some reason today, I wrote at the top, before the game had started, Arsenal 2, Chelsea 1. I think for a little bit of fun with myself, hoping that I'd be able to cross that out later. But unfortunately it came true, and I now should put a bet on that scoreline. But the first note I wrote on the pad was after about 10 or 15 minutes. And it was simply Sanchez disaster class. And this weird thing with Rob Sanchez where you kind of know after about 5 minutes what sort of game you're going to get from him. We've all been watching him now for a few years in the Chelsea shirt, and I'm not going to go back on everything I've said. He's had some really good games for us, and actually I think overall this season he's been pretty good. Let's face it, he's been pretty good. But when he is bad, oh my God, he is bad. And I think today was one of those. I mean, early on in the game, the reason I wrote that note was that he kept trying to just pass the ball out to Arsenal players, or get tackled by Gyökeres as he did very early in the game. And I think Chalobah had a go at him at one point because it was just, the Arsenal fans effectively cheering his every touch and doing all the kind of classic olays. It was that bad early on. And what that does to the rest of the team, I think in that first half, I generally think, as well as maybe not playing with the kind of belief that we thought we just showed in the second half, ironically, our first half passing was maybe the worst it's been all season. But that came right from Rob Sanchez at the start of it all. Just kicking the ball to an Arsenal player every time. And, he's just not good enough, is he? He's just not good enough for where Chelsea want to go. And Jamie Carragher did a thing on Sky earlier in the week where he had Edwin van der Sar on, and they were doing the top 10 goalkeepers in Premier League history. It was Carragher's list, and at number 1 was Petr Cech. And, I was really pleased to see that, actually. But if you look through the list, most of them had won the league. And you really looked at it and thought, yeah, when we've won leagues, well, we've only had 2 goalkeepers when we've won leagues, and it's Courtois and Cech, and both of them were in the list and are absolutely top draw. At any time, have been the best goalkeeper in the world, and for a number of years have been that. And I think when you look at Chelsea, you just go, we really have to hope that Mike Penders is that guy, and is that guy very soon. Otherwise, we have to do something in the summer. But yeah, I mean, the simple thing with the goalkeepers, and I said this to someone earlier, is that if you swap the goalkeepers around in the 2 teams today, if you put David Raya in Chelsea and Sanchez in the Arsenal team, I think you swap the result. I think it's that simple. David Raya made a couple of really good saves, was generally really, really good, and Sanchez was pretty poor. The game itself, I'm tempted to call this podcast The Beautiful Game because, I've moaned about this current state of the Premier League on the pub before, and I won't bore people for ages, but it is, if Arsenal win the league this year, wow, it's a different style of football, isn't it? I mean, I know a lot of Arsenal fans who grew up with the Thierry Henry, Dennis Bergkamp era of Arsenal, and to be fair to them in that time, they were brilliant to watch. They played some beautiful football. This is not that Arsenal. It really isn't. I mean, they create basically virtually nothing in open play, and it was all about corners. And I put Chelsea in that as well. We did create a little bit more in open play, but our biggest threat often was from set pieces, was from corners. And it's a really funny era, isn't it, that the Premier League is in? There's no way to talk around it. It's not beautiful football. And to be honest, if the Premier League is going to stay like this, and it'll be interesting to see what happens in the next year, in the next wave. But if corners and long throws continue to be a massive part of how the game is played in England. Chelsea are going to have to buy high. There's no other way around it. You're going to have to look at your squad and choose selectively to buy high in certain positions. You look at Arsenal today, both of their fullbacks, very good in the air. Chelsea's generally, none of ours are particularly good in the air. You'd almost have to start to think, well, there's opportunities there to sort of buy players who are going to be better in the air. Like Arsenal talked about it before, have got a lot of height in centre midfield. They've really set themselves up for this style of football. Chelsea haven't really. And I'm not going to say there's a right or a wrong way to win games, but if this is the way at the moment, then Chelsea probably have to adjust and have a look at that in the summer, because we're getting bullied. We're getting bullied. And I'll talk a little bit more about some of the stuff that Rosini said later in the press conference, but I'll pick out this bit now. He was asked, actually, it was a very interesting press conference with him after the game today. I'd recommend listening to it. He was asked about set pieces. He said that we've conceded 7 goals from set pieces. Sorry, 7 goals from corners since he joined the club, which is insane. And he was very open to, we have to fix it. But that's a massive problem for us. That's a massive problem. And if we don't get Champions League this year, then it will be down to 2 very simple things, which is conceding too many goals from set pieces and playing far too many games with 10 men. And Joe's called it there, the stupidity. I just saw the list of the red cards this year. We've shared them around. I'll give us that. There's no player has got 2. We've had 9 players now have got a red card this season. It's the most in 10 years. In 10 years. And I think it's equaled our record in the Premier League. So that's over 30 years. And the scary thing is, I think we might have more to come. I don't think we're done yet. It's only the 1st of March. There's no way that you're watching this Chelsea side thinking, oh, we're learning. Don't worry, we learned from the game last week against Burnley. We've got a bit smarter. You can't believe that Fofana stuff after the Burnley game wasn't talked about. Be careful when you're on a booking. Use your nut. I mean, Joe's called it. I won't say anything more about what really is. I've got nothing to add, but it's insanity. And to be fair, again, Liam Rosini was asked about that. More asked about the discipline, really. But he did say, we have to do something. We have to do something. So it's going to be interesting, but it's just the stupidity. It's just the stupidity. It's almost easier, isn't it, if it's one person? When it was Nicholas Jackson last year, obviously he got a couple. You could kind of look at it and go, well, he's the problem. But it's not. It's an epidemic. It's insane. I think fundamentally I'm very bored of losing to Arsenal now. I'm sure Liam Rosini doesn't want to play them in a hurry. He's lost 3 games, all to Arsenal. Out of all of them, today hurt the most to me, I think, just because I actually thought he played all right. But just frustrating, isn't it? Just so frustrating. Let's talk about the referee. So clearly, Pedro Neto and Rob Sanchez, from a Chelsea perspective, need to take a lot of flack. I actually thought there were a lot of good performances in the side, and I think Joe summed that up really well. Those 2 guys really let us down today. But I think the other thing that really let Chelsea down was the referee and VAR. And those who've listened to the pod for a while will know my views about VAR and my absolute hatred for it. But I think today we saw why, really. Let's go through I've counted 4 sort of big issues that in the game that I thought we were really hard done by. The first one is the one that didn't really matter in the end, but the Declan Rice handball. I was watching it and I was like, oh, this is clearly a penalty. And when they said in the commentary it was being checked, I was like, oh, great, it's a penalty. Well, you watched it and you thought, oh, but... And then they said, oh, it's because he's being manhandled and it's a bit of fisticuffs. But I was like, no, he's manhandling Hato. So he's holding on to Hato. Because he's doing that, he's had to lift his arm. He's come off his forearm and gone towards goal, and Reyes made a save. I was like, it's a penalty. And then I just couldn't believe that it wasn't given. And I'm in my head, I'm absolutely fuming. And then obviously, it doesn't matter because we score from the subsequent corner, but just an incredible decision. Then at 1-1, João Pedro, again, another penalty, check. You look at that one again, and I know this happens there's all, manhandling in the box and all this sort of stuff. He gets manhandled by Saliba. gets his head on the ball. He gets there first. He heads the ball and gets a punch in the head from David Raya for his troubles. Again, checked and cleared by VAR. And I'm just watching it going, right, what is this beautiful game that I'm watching? What is this football? Then you have, which at the time didn't seem that meaningful, but again, what's the point of VAR? It can only fix certain things. It can't fix everything. A foul and a booking from Hato. You watch it back. It's a dive from Timber. It's not a foul. That leads to Arsenal's second goal. Cross comes in with a free kick from Declan Rice. Sanchez disaster leads to the corner they score from. Again, just a referee mistake. And it just all adds up. And you're just looking at it going, these little moments are so important at this level, of course. And the reason I think I really hate VAR, I've talked about it before and said, it's taking the emotion of scoring a goal out of things and all that kind of stuff, which I stand by. But I think it's the fact that it still gets so much wrong. And yes, percentage-wise, it gets a lot more right than it used to, without a doubt. The numbers won't lie. Of course it will get more right. But you could accept it more. When it was one referee and his linesman getting a decision wrong, you could accept it. That's part of the game. And I think there was too much other good stuff that was gained from the real-time world of football that we lived in then versus this absolute farce. And the fourth one, by the way, it wasn't even in our game. I'd written it down, but it was the Man United one earlier, which you haven't seen, is just an absolute disgrace. Man United 1-0 down. Obviously, it's going to be very important to see, in this rest of the Champions League, they're 1-0 down at home to Palace and they get given a penalty and a red card for Palace. And again, VAR interfering, and watch that and tell me that it's not a broken system. I just don't know. I talked about Liam Rosenior quotes. The other thing that he talked about a little bit, and I just wanted to pick it up, was actually the referees and VAR. And the only thing I'd say is he was almost a bit too nice. And part of me in moments like that almost wants a bit of a Jose Mourinho type reaction. And I know a lot of managers won't do it now because they'll get fined and all sorts of issues from the club and from the FA. But he did say he was disappointed, but he was pretty soft. And I think he was too nice on the referee officials. And I kind of just want him to come out and say, basically what I've just said, this isn't good enough. Here are the situations. We've seen it. These are bad calls. I want them explained. I want a letter to explain that. It's what Liverpool would do. They write a letter about fucking everything that they moan about. I want us to be like a bit more like that, because actually I think at the moment we're getting a bit done by things like this, and these sort of small moments are everything. I'll finish on a few quick hits. When we went down to 10 men, we had a really bad sort of 10-minute spell, but I actually thought we rallied really, really well. I'm going to give the players and Liam Rosenior some credit for that. We've seen Chelsea play enough times with 10 men this year to know that we do it pretty badly a lot of the time. I thought today, one of the best we've played with 10 men. By the way, we've played Arsenal now twice in the league with 10 men, because Caicedo got obviously sent off in the home game. But he went 3 at the back. He was brave. He was bold. He didn't, it's quite easy to, I think, sometimes under Maresca, we'd almost throw in the towel a little bit with 10 men. Didn't feel like that at all today. He still went for it, made changes, carried on throwing stuff at Arsenal to give them things to think about. And do you know what? On another day, it would have worked. The Garnacho kind of come shot that went through. I was off my seat. I thought that was in. It was a great save by David Raya. And then obviously right at the death, the Liam Delap one. And God, did he need that? Does he need something like that to happen for him in the 95th minute? I didn't go mad enough to celebrate. I don't know how many people did. I just sort of thought it looked a little bit like it could be offside. Obviously it turned out it was miles offside. But, a moment like that, it would have been what Chelsea deserved. It would have been what Chelsea deserved. I had a couple of messages from Arsenal fans tonight saying that we were unlucky and asking what was the issue with Rob Sanchez. And two final quick hits from me. One is, how many Chelsea players had the wrong boots on today? Flipping over all over the place. It was really, really odd and never seemed to get that right. There was a little story I remember from Marcel Desailly back in the day at Chelsea, a lot of Chelsea players basically said he was the king of knowing what studs to wear. And he'd go on the pitch, do a little walk around, and they'd be like, what are we going? I think it was sort of 3 grades of stud length that you'd have in those days. And he would basically go, yeah, we're going medium today. And all of the players would basically follow Marcel's lead because he was an absolute sort of perfectionist for things like that. We needed Desailly out there today because they were all slipping all over the place. It was really quite weird. And this is kind of what feels like 3 to 6 monthly call out for a reminder of what Romeo Lavia can do in a Chelsea shirt when he plays, as he always seems to do. He plays in these games. You get a look at him again. You go, oh my God, he's a Rolls Royce of a player. What could he be if he could play for us regularly? And all I can say is we can only hope and pray that Chelsea can find a way to keep him fit, because you add him into the mix of those midfielders that we've already got, and there are not many better sets of midfielders around in the Premier League, I would say. He really, in these little moments that he has where he carries the ball, he's brilliant. And let's see if he can play some meaningful minutes towards the end of the season, because if he can, as I said before, he will be like a new signing. So overall, look, it's hard not to be gutted, but I want to look at the positives. And actually, Chelsea played well today. I think in most part, they did us proud, apart from a couple of guys who let us down on the day. It's all on for this run-in of games, and it all starts with Aston Villa on Wednesday. And I mentioned it on the pod before, even more so now, particularly with Villa losing on Friday night. Chelsea have to win. It is a season-defining game at Villa on Wednesday night. Back over to you, Joe. We rally again.
This episode is brought to you by Indeed. Stop waiting around for the perfect candidate. Instead, use Indeed sponsored jobs to find the right people with the right skills fast. It's a simple way to make sure your listing is the first candidates see. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs have 4 times more applicants than non-sponsored jobs. So go build your dream team today with Indeed. Get a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply.
The Monday after the game before. How do I feel today? I just feel gutted. I just feel like the season is dwindling and fizzling out pretty quick. I think the Aston Villa game on Wednesday, Chris mentioned, and rightly so, that it is going to be very, very pivotal. But I don't know, we're just giving up so many points to just about everybody that it's not a write-off. I mean, you never know. They could go. I know Chris has sort of said, we might win the Champions League, we might win the FA Cup, and that's a possibility, of course. I know that, but the reality says that we won't. I think we'd be hard pushed to win any of those trophies. I think the FA Cup is definitely our best chance. But yeah, at the moment, it just feels a little bit dour, and headspace-wise, I had high expectations for Chelsea this year. Not mental expectations. I just wanted them to mount a fairly semi-serious title challenge. And if we were sitting where Aston Villa were, and we've said this a couple of times, I know, but if we were sitting where Aston Villa were right now, with a slightly better run of form than Villa, but we weren't kind of really in the shout, just that being solidating third position would just feel better than sitting 6th and struggling. I think the 2 results prior to Arsenal were a real kick in the nuts, and I think that had we taken 6 points against them, yesterday's result would have been almost nothing to worry about, and we'd also be 4 points closer to Aston Villa, and we could go above them on Wednesday night, except if we beat them on Wednesday night, we still go 3 points behind them, and this is the mountain that we've got to climb. Chris made a good point on the last pod that sort of going through everybody's run of games, that Liverpool and Man United seem to be getting it together. Now, I think both of those clubs have still got a calamitous rick in them. I didn't think Man United were very good yesterday, but they did get over the line. A bit like Chelsea last season in those 1-0 victories at home. They were disappointing in the first half, and they got a very... Yeah. You can argue it's a penalty. It's definitely not a red card, in my opinion. Definitely not a red card. And I thought the rule had changed where if you did give a penalty, you didn't also give the double negative and give the red card as well. So that seems to have slipped back into the football laws. And quite frankly, I think it's a disappointing... Well, certainly as a Palace fan, you'd be absolutely fuming because it was barely a touch. But okay, give the penalty, but I think it's very, very harsh to give the red card as well. But they're not in amazing form, but like I said, they are getting results, and Carrick is being fucking annoying, and he has won just about every game that he's been in charge of so far. So fair play to him, although I do believe, much like Chris, that Steve Holland has an awful lot to say about that. And he is the one guy that when he left, I think it was Ancelotti, when he left with him, I was gutted, because you just felt like he was the one that pulled everything together at the end. And probably the coach that the players went to when things weren't quite right or they needed to speak, but they did want to speak to the manager directly, he would have been the go-between. So, yes, annoyingly, these clubs are doing quite well, and we are sadly falling down the table of a house made of cards on a windy day. Now, as I said yesterday, I think that Liam Rosenior picked the right team. I don't think anybody got any complaints about that. I feel a bit sorry for him, actually. I think the players have let him down in the last 3 weeks, or last 3 games, certainly. All that momentum that he built up has sort of gone away. Now, if they don't pick up all 3 points against Aston Villa on Wednesday, we are going to find ourselves in a real situation and a sticky situation to even qualify for the Champions League. I think it's going to get away from us very, very quickly if we're not careful. I think just for momentum's sake and the way that Villa are playing, we need to sort of take another chunk and a chink out of them, because they are struggling. And if we were to go and get beat in a silly game where we don't turn up again, then it goes back to 9 points, I think. And yeah, you're asking a lot, because they've only got to really just about crawl over the line, win a few stinky games, 1-0, 2-1, and you can't catch them. Obviously, Liverpool are the ones that are closer to us currently. And yes, they've got games in Europe to play, and that could play a factor. But I just think that Villa are the ones that we do need to keep our eye on, and we must make sure they stay in check. And I think just for Liam Rosenior's sake, they owe him one, quite frankly. I think they do owe him one. I think he's coached them pretty well. I think that the football I'm seeing, the first half wasn't great yesterday, I don't think, but it was against the champions-elect, if you want to call it that. And so it's never an easy game, and they are at home. So you kind of expected to see a little bit of what happened. And actually, the game played out exactly as I thought it would. I thought Arsenal might score, and I thought that Chelsea might get back and they would get nervous. And it's exactly what happened. And we just could not find that goal to get over the line. And I think that it will be good for Chelsea to repay some of the faith that Liam Rosenior has shown in some of that starting 11 by picking up all 3 points at Villa Park on Wednesday night. And I hope to dear God that we don't go away from that starting 11 too much. I hope that suddenly we don't see Tosin start, or Badiashile, or Gusto. I hope we can just keep what we saw played out again for another match, because the balance just seemed about right. And having players like Lavia come on, if he can, like Chris said, if he can just stay fit until the end of the season, work himself back into the team, he will add a lot to this football club. And yeah, he's a laughing stock in some cases that he hasn't played 90 minutes for Chelsea yet. But if they can just wrap him up in cotton wool and keep him fit and healthy and able to come on and maybe change a game with 25 minutes to go, then he's going to be a real weapon for us. And as is Mamadou Sarr. Again, great performance yesterday. Still looks quite raw, but he looks like he's got the brains to cope, and the physique certainly to cope in the Premier League. He looks a very smart defender, and I really do believe that those players could have something to say for us come the end of the year. It might be the best bit of business we did by bringing back Sarr in January, but we've got to keep playing him. I don't want to see chopping and changing those two centre-backs any more than we have to. It is becoming a bit silly. And I think Trev and Mamadou Sarr can play out the season, no problem whatsoever. I just wanted to speak about the Pedro Neto yellow card debacle that's sort of gone round the socials this morning. You can quite clearly see, and there are Chelsea fans out there that don't want to believe it, but I'm sorry, he has brandished a yellow card 4 yards from his face, and Reece James is standing right next to him. And Reece James pushes him away because he keeps talking even after he's got booked. So to say that he didn't know he got booked is an absolute disgrace and a nonsense, and he's just trying to cover his own arse. Quite frankly, I don't want to hear it. You know when you've been booked, when you've been playing football, and to say that you did not know is a cop-out, and I'm not having that. I'm sorry. He let us down, quite frankly. As have so many Chelsea players in blue shirts this season when they've got stupid red cards. They've let us down. And I think the fan base as a whole, listening to what I heard from all manner of different people, some people I know, some people I don't know, and just about everybody had the same view that these players are not learning, they're not listening, and they are letting the club down, they're letting the fans down. And watching a lonely Reece James clap off the away support yesterday whilst all his teammates filtered down the tunnel, I thought was a fucking disgrace. And I thought we got past this. And Reece stayed there. He's a very popular figure, Reece James, so he's never going to be booed or shouted at. But you still need to front stuff up sometimes. And I think that he did a really good job of just standing there and just saying, I'm sorry, I know it's not good enough. It had that feel about it from him. Obviously, he's not saying any words, but just the way he was standing and the way he was longing, looking at the Chelsea fans, you just felt as though that he gets us, he understands it, and he knows it's not good enough, particularly when this team is investing so much in players and staff and academies, etc. Chris is going to give us a good rundown on Aston Villa and our form, their form, etc., and what we need to do to break them down tomorrow night. I will leave it there today and just say that I kind of hope to dear God that we don't end up letting this season drift away, because we've had seasons like this before, and believe me, it's not fun when you're playing for nothing and you feel as though maybe the top 4 or 5 positions has gone, obviously the league championship has gone, and you're just sort of mucking around that Europa Conference League place alongside Fulham and Brentford is going to feel pretty yucky, quite frankly. So fingers crossed the guys can pull something out their arse on Wednesday night, because they really do need to. And I have a feeling, I've just got a funny feeling we just might do it. But no predictions from me, absolutely none whatsoever. Just a hunch.
I think I was one of those mugs that fell for the Pedro Neto thing that Jerry's talking about there, because I was watching the video clips on social this morning thinking, maybe he didn't know he was booked. But yeah, he probably did, didn't he? And it actually gets more stupid when you watch it again. I put myself through the misery of watching the highlights again this morning. And it's not only stupid, it's actually quite lazy. It's a lazy tackle. With his pace, just run back and track him back. Like, you have those heroic last man fouls, don't you, that you sometimes see. And do you know what? Most fans don't mind. Do you remember the one that often goes around on social as a famous Ole Gunnar Solskjaer one for Man United, where he literally, it's kind of classic. The Newcastle player's running through on goal, and he just absolutely chops him from about 25 yards out because he was one-on-one, gets a red card, but basically gets a standing ovation from the Old Trafford crowd. You don't mind that, do you? But this one was like, he's on the left-hand touchline, there's loads of players also running back. Just use your pace and track with him. And it's a lazy foul. It's a lazy foul. And obviously Pedro Neto won't get to play anyway against Villa because of that. But even if he could, he would not be in my team. And as Joe said earlier, probably not in my team for a little while. I think he's really, really let himself down there. And he's been someone who has divided the Chelsea fan base this season, actually, and probably longer. And I think that has really not helped his cause with the detractors. Before we talk about the Villa game myself, I just thought I'd just quickly mention the Champions League draw, because we haven't talked about that on the pod yet. Obviously, the draw came out last week. We knew it would be PSG or Newcastle. It was PSG. It is a replay of the final in the Club World Cup in the summer. And it should be a great occasion, shouldn't it? Second leg at the bridge. I always prefer that. I always think it gives us more of a chance. We'll obviously preview that game in more detail down the line, but But yeah, it's exciting. It's exciting. And I said I preferred PSG than Newcastle. I don't like playing English teams in the Champions League if we can avoid it. And playing a game like that is what it is about. That is why you're in the Champions League. The draw itself, I imagine most people have seen this by now, but it bears repeating. It's Arsenal could not have got a more favourable draw. And the comparison of their half of the draw to Chelsea is insane, actually. Of the 8 teams on the Chelsea side of the draw, 6 out of the 8 have won the Champions League before. There are 31 Champions League titles between the teams on that side of the draw. Compare that to Arsenal, where only 1 of the 8 teams on their side of the draw have won the Champions League before. Obviously, Arsenal not being one of them. And there's 5 Champions Leagues, all won by Barcelona. So, yeah, just looking at the teams on that side, Arsenal should really be looking at thinking I've got a very good chance of getting to the final. To win their big trophies, you're going to have to play against big teams and beat big teams. And yeah, if Chelsea can get past PSG, it's likely Liverpool in the next round. But we'll get to that one. We'll talk about that if and when we get there. Let's talk about Villa. Villa. It is, as I said earlier, for me, a must-win game. It's certainly a must-not-lose game. That classic Mourinho quote, I'm not going to say that you have to win, but you must not lose. We can't lose. Those who remember the game away last year, that was a painful one. That was the one where we were messing around with the keepers, and to be honest, he must have a bit of a temptation to put Jorgensen in, but I think if he watches the highlights back of the game at Villa last year, it might stop him. That was the one where Jorgensen threw the ball basically in the last minute of the game. Chelsea having just missed minutes earlier a gilt-edged chance through Cole Palmer, and Villa winning the game that day 2-1. It's a funny one, isn't it? I think if Chelsea play like we did yesterday at Arsenal, and like Joe, I'm still really down about the result, but if we play like we did yesterday, we'll win the game. I'm really confident of that. If we get the details right in the box, play like that against Villa, I think we win. They're a funny side, Villa. Joe and I sat together for the home game this season. And again, if you remember that one, we were coasting after an hour of that game. We were 1-0 up. Could and should have been more. I remember Joe and I looked at each other, and this is Villa when they were on that ridiculous winning run where they won with 13 or 14 games in a row. And we were chatting to each other going like, what? How is this Villa on this run? We just couldn't see it. Chelsea were playing them off the park. But Chelsea being Chelsea gave Villa a couple of absolute gifts. Of course, conceded the winning goal from a corner, and Villa walked away with a 2-1 win. And, I don't need to tell you this, but do the maths. If Chelsea win that game, then we're ahead of Villa right now. That's what a 6 points is all about. So it's a similar story on Wednesday. If Chelsea win the game, it really changes the balance. It puts Villa under a hell of a lot more pressure going into their run of games. And by the way, their run is not easy. I had a look at it earlier. I won't go through every single game, but they play Man United next after us. They've got Liverpool on the last day, and they've got a lot of teams absolutely fighting for their lives at all ends of the table, really, including the likes of Spurs, don't laugh, Nottingham Forest, teams like that. So I look at their fixtures and the fact that they are in the Europa League, and actually they're on the more difficult side of the Europa League draw as well. I think if we can win there, like Joe, I think we could do enough to get top 5. I just think United and Liverpool will get there. I just think they will. But Villa is the one we have to rail in my opinion. They themselves have a few key injuries at the moment. All players that seem to play well against Chelsea, notably John McGinn and Yuri Tillemans, who've both always done well against us. We've also got Kamara out, who's absolutely key for them. So not a bad time to be playing them. They're not on a great run. They've won 1 in 6 games. So they really are struggling. And even before that, and even in some of the games they haven't lost, Emilio Martinez has been the difference and has been man of the match in multiple games. They're just not playing great. But Chelsea, as we know, Charity FC have a tendency, unfortunately, to give teams gifts even when they're not at the top of their game. And I really hope we don't see that on Wednesday. I really hope we see a proper grown-up Chelsea performance on what will be, I'm sure, a big atmosphere and a big night. Villa's not an easy place to go when the atmosphere's up. Let's talk about a couple of the guys that will be reunited with Jadon Sancho and Tammy Abraham. I think with Sancho, we talked about him in the summer and at the end of, obviously, last season and whether Chelsea should keep him or not. I think at the time we were pretty balanced, really. I think we were kind of 50-50 on it. I don't think we really minded either way. I think with the benefit of hindsight, I probably would have kept him certainly compared to Jamie Gittins. I think Sancho would have given us a lot more. I think Garnacho divides people. A big game for him on Wednesday. For me, he has to start. He'd be the only change I'd be making to the lineup, by the way. But I think Garnacho still gives you something. But certainly Jadon Sancho would have helped us just this year, and I'm sure he'll relish the chance to kind of prove a point on Wednesday night. And Tammy. Tammy. I mean, I'll forever love Tammy for obviously not just what he did in coming through Chelsea's academy, but what he did for Chelsea in that first season under Frank Lampard, which was a joy to watch, wasn't it? All the young players come through together. Tammy, actually, his goal record at Chelsea really stands up. Was really decent. And when you look at where Chelsea are right now, right at this point in time, I think João Pedro is growing in front of our eyes into a really, really good centre forward. And I think the ceiling for him, by the way, is very high if he continues to develop like he is. But you would love someone like Tammy as a second option, wouldn't you? Something like where we brought on Delap yesterday. You just got a bit more faith in Tammy to be where it needs to be to get you a key goal. And again, he could come back to haunt us on Wednesday if we're not very, very careful. But do love the guy, love Tammy, and let's hope he has a great career but doesn't score too many goals against Chelsea in the process, and certainly not on Wednesday. I mentioned the team. I'm completely with Joe. Message is really simple to Liam Rosenior. Please don't muck around with it. Just don't muck around. One change is all you need to do. Keep the back four steady. I don't think the midfield needs to change. I think you bring Garnacho in for Pedro Neto. You tell Cole Palmer to put his boots on the right feet and start looking like Cole Palmer again, because we really need him to. And again, if you can get Lavia to have another half an hour, I think maybe then you sort of look at Wrexham at the weekend to think he could start there, but probably too early to throw him in from the start. I said I was going to be nervous before the Arsenal game, probably like Joe. It didn't feel as much on it for us. My nerves grew as the game went on. I will be nervous on Wednesday. It really does feel season defining, and we have to win. Let's hope that every little thing's going to be all right. We'll be back on Thursday to tell you whether it was. See you next time. Those were the Chelsea notes for this week. If you enjoyed the podcast, do us a favour and share it with a fellow Blue. And we'd love to hear your thoughts, so leave us a review wherever you're listening. Wherever you may be, stay carefree, and remember, every little thing's gonna be all right.